The NFL Combine took place over the weekend, and there were several big nuggets in regards to the Falcons. But one of the more intriguing came from Diana Russini, one of the most plugged-in insiders for The Athletic, and she said from a very smart general manager, which I thought was hilarious because, like, what if she was just like, yeah, an idiot general manager told me this? But from, quote, a very smart general manager, she heard that it could be quarterback with the top 4 picks. Now, I don't know if that's ever happened, but I don't think it's as ridiculous as it sounds.
I think it's ridiculous. I think it is quite ridiculous. I think that it is smokescreen season, people, and you should use your eyes, ears, and nose as well as you can, because if it smells funky, it's probably funky. Marvin Harrison Jr. is this generational prospect. The Cardinals, yes, they need a lot of pieces, but what is the one thing they've been missing?
Yeah, I mean, receiver for Kyler Murray, yeah. Marvin Harrison Jr.
This is not even a question. I mean, it would have to be an astronomical price.
But you say, I mean, and we've talked about this, Malik Nabers and Rome Odunze, I don't think they're that far off.
I disagree. So I think Malik Nabers is closer to Marvin Harrison Jr. than Odunze is to Malik Nabers. But there is still, I think, I wouldn't say a sizable gap.
I don't think
the thing is wide receiver play is so dependent upon other facets of the game. Like, you can't have a mushroom back there throwing you passes. If you got a Swiss cheese offensive line, you're not going to look very good. Like, look what Davante Adams went unquestioned the best receiver in the game with Aaron Rodgers, and now nobody even talks about him as a top 5 receiver with the Raiders. So I do think situation and circumstances matter, and that's not to say Malik Nabers couldn't find himself in a better situation than Marvin Harrison, but if you put them in the same situation, I believe they're also different receivers.
But if you can get Malik Nabers and then go back and get a future first-round pick for someone that's trading up with you,
you probably would.
You probably would do that.
Probably
or Roman Dunze or something like that. So I think this is at the top of the draft. There's a lot of receivers that are probably going to be number 1 receivers in any other draft, but you have a guy like generational guys like Marvin Harrison and even Malik Nabers and Roman Dunze. I think they're all top receivers. I'd even throw Brian Thomas isn't that far behind after he runs a 4.34 at the Combine. But I think this really comes down to the evaluation of J.J. McCarthy. And if there's one thing that came out from the NFL Combine reported by everyone, and it could just be smoke, is that there is legitimate interest in J.J. McCarthy as a top 5 pick, whether it's ahead of Jaden Daniels or Drake May or someone like that. And that throws a wrench in all these plans, right? Because we've always thought it's those top 3 quarterbacks. If someone falls in love in those top 3 picks with J.J. McCarthy, and all of a sudden Jaden Daniels or Drake May is available with the 4th overall pick, you're going to have a host of teams lining up trying to trade up for that 4th pick, and the Cardinals have said it's available. And so that's where I think if J.J. McCarthy is legitimately getting top 3 consideration and one of these other big time quarterback prospects fall, I mean, I almost guarantee you someone's going to trade up and pick it. So to me, it really just comes down to the view around the league, or maybe just of one team.
That's
of
just
J.J.
about,
McCarthy.
I'll take it from right there. It takes one team. Like, you see a terrible painting and somebody pays $4 million for it, and you're like, what? I could have created that with my eyes. Because it takes one person to see the value in J.J. McCarthy to do exactly what you just said and mortgage their future, which will certainly include at least 1 first-round pick, depending on how far that team that's trading up is down the draft board. It takes one team. And every single year, teams will overdraft quarterbacks because it's the most important position in the sport. Whatever you think about J.J. McCarthy, I promise the NFL, that's what came out of the Combine, is NFL teams in general. They didn't say just one quarterback needy team. They said teams in general are much higher on J.J. McCarthy than the general public is. And I think that's what you should take away from the NFL Combine, which is what we've been saying.
Which is kind of funny about as far as J.J. McCarthy, because if you watched him during the throwing drills, it wasn't exactly the prettiest thing. I mean, when you talk about quarterbacks that a lot of times wow people at the NFL Combine.
Michael Penix.
And then come out and all of a sudden they're like, oh, this guy's now a top 5 pick. I mean, Zach Wilson, stuff like that. They're out there throwing absolute nuke bombs, accurate, on time. Now, I don't put any weight into this because they're not even throwing with pads. They're not throwing against defenses. You can't tell about their processing and stuff like that. But McCarthy kind of did the opposite. Like, he was wildly inaccurate. It seemed like he was trying to show off that arm maybe a little bit too much to NFL evaluators. But apparently that's not really hurting his stock, because it was widely reported that his stock is much higher than a lot of the people, a lot of the analysts believe it to be. Coming up after the break, Albert Breer dishes out some insider information about what it would take for the Falcons to land star corner L'Jarius Sneed.